Hey people, welcome back or to another video. For those of you who are new around here, welcome. I'm Jade and I'm super grateful to have you come join us on this child-free living channel. And I just realized just then that my lip and nail combo looks more like a gender reveal than anything else. How freaking creepy. But anyway, we're going to be going on to the topic of loneliness today because I feel like this topic, let's face it, there are so many different avenues to it. But I think that the way a lot of people look at loneliness, they look at it from a standpoint of like, that's the inevitable for you if you choose not to have children. Now, you and I both know that no one should really be having children just to keep them company when they're older or just to look after them when they're older. This is a lot of pressure to put on another human being and should not be the case for anyone. However, as child-free people, if you are watching this, whether you're either like whatever gender you are or you identify as, you've probably been told at one point that you're gonna die lonely. And I've definitely heard it loads of times. I've definitely heard the who's gonna look after you when you're old and you're gonna be lonely and bitter, you're gonna be a crazy cat lady, which by the way is fine by me. But let's talk about this now. I'm gonna share something that I read on Facebook. It was originally posted on Reddit, but I read through this and it just made me think. But if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button and hit the thumbs up button. It really, really helps this channel and helps it find the right people out there who want to be part of the child-free community, to understand that their choices and their lifestyles are completely and totally valid. You will always and forever be welcomed into this space. So let's get started. So the title was, when you're 60, you will look back and regret not having children. It's what my mother told me when I was obtaining an abortion at 19, which she believed could make me sterile. It was also in a letter my mother sent me when I was 31 and about to have my tubes tied, knowing motherhood was not for me. I kept that letter for 29 years. I am now 60 and I can say with certainty that I do not regret it. And I'm actually really glad this person kept that letter, because it's just that cherry on the top. Because I always like to say to people who have said this to me in the past, that I always like saying, oh, let's make a bet. And every single year that I'm right, let's add on some more money to it. And then at the end of it, we'll see who's rich. That's another way you can do it. But as you see fit, whatever for your lifestyle. So upon finding that letter again, I called my mother to remind her of what she wrote. Since she wrote it, she has watched me live my life vibrantly without children and came to understand that while her happiness came from motherhood, that was not the path I was destined to take. She hasn't always approved of my life choices. She doesn't understand why I reject monogamy, why I date women as well as men, why I became an activist, or why I still date at 60, for example. But she knows I am happy. She found it funny that she made that prediction, and we laughed about how wrong she was. Now, I think it's even nicer that she now can look back on this with her mother and actually laugh about it, because, I mean, what else would you do when you realize you're that wrong about something or someone in your life? You have no choice but to laugh at it and just understand that even if you're someone watching this and you've tried to convince somebody else to have children, whether that's your own children or someone in your family or a friend, because it's a lifestyle choice you made, then the bottom line is you have that, you know, you have that ability to be wrong and be proven wrong. And it's not always a case of like just proving a point. It's because that person genuinely wanted to live that lifestyle. They genuinely never had the urge to have kids. They didn't want kids. They didn't have the urge. They didn't get this mummy fever or whatever it's called. Like, they never got it, or they simply just never wanted it because they wanted to travel, or they wanted to date men and women, or, you know, they wanted to live and have several partners at the same time. Like, these are all lifestyle choices that we can make and that society frown upon for some reason, when actually they're not really hurting anyone else. So why should we frown upon them? Why should we frown upon people who choose to live a lifestyle of their choice, as long as they are not hurting themselves or other people? So the last part was quite cool. My life is wonderful. I have been so many places, loved so many people, had so many experiences. And I would not have done half the things I did if I had settled down with a nice man and had 2 to 3 children in a nice house in the suburbs. For you younger folks who have heard you'll regret it when you're older enough times to make you doubt yourself, remember that this old lady has been hearing you'll regret it since 1979. and still doesn't regret it in 2020. So obviously it's a few years old, but I strongly believe that she no doubt doesn't regret it 3 years later. And I think there are so many people out there who are living in a settled place where they're kind of like, let me just do this and it'll be up. Everything will sort itself out. I'll just be happier. I'll make my parents happy. They'll stop being on my back about things. And this is not okay, guys, because why should you have to compromise your happiness, your comfort, your wants, your needs, your dreams, your hopes, because you want someone else around you to be happy? What about yourself? Like, there are so many people abandoning their own wants and needs simply just to please other people or just to put other people ahead of themselves. And guys, this is not good for you long term. It might make you look like a good person or a kind person, and you might find that a lot of people around you like it, and they like it because it's convenient for them. It's not convenient for yourself, because the bottom line is you cannot pour from an empty cup. If you have no energy or nothing left of yourself and you are mentally taxed out, that is going to highlight in your own life. Your own happiness is compromised. Your own freedom is compromised. And for what? For what? For pleasing somebody else. And that's if they even get happy afterwards. Because you know, when you're constantly trying to please other people, and this is coming from someone who lived probably most of her 20s, in fact, all of her 20s, trying to please everyone in her family and trying to please her parents, is, let me tell you, it will gang up on you. Not gang up on you, but it will, you know, it will escalate. And one day you will just pop. And it is not healthy. But in all seriousness, I find the whole worrying about dying lonely when you're old just a bit weird, if I'm honest. Why are there young people out there right now worrying about dying when they're older? You shouldn't even be worrying about being older or getting older. You should just be living your life that you have now. So whatever age bracket you're in, whether you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, why is your mind constantly on the future in what I think personally is quite a negative light? Because what you're doing is you're compromising your younger years, you're compromising the present moment, which is right now, because you're worried about getting to a certain age, which, by the way, you don't even know if you're going to get there. You don't know. You don't know if you're going to get there, and you're worried about there's not going to be someone there with you when you're old and when you're dying, whether you're in a care home or whether you're in a hospice or in a hospital or whatever it is. There's no guarantee you're even going to get to that age to die of old age. Look, I don't want to make this sound negative, but you can die at any moment. Your life can be taken from you at any moment. Again, I don't want this to get morbid, but the truth of the matter is, when people used to say this to me, who's going to look after you when you're old, I used to say, well, there's no guarantee I'm even going to make old, whatever that age is, because everybody's got their own perception of what old actually is. And as for loneliness can hit you at any age, at any time of your life. I felt really lonely as a teenager. I felt really lonely in my mid-20s. I've felt lonely in loads of other times in my life. I've had fleeting moments of loneliness. I wouldn't say it contributed to my entire life feeling lonely. If you have fleeting moments of loneliness, so for example, if you've moved to another town, or if you've moved to study somewhere, or you've moved to another city or town or country to take on a contract at a job, you might feel fleeting moments of loneliness. It doesn't mean you're going to necessarily die lonely. It just means in that moment you're a little bit lonely. Now, I experienced this when I moved abroad. I used to live in the Middle East, and that was in my mid-20s. That was about a decade ago. And I remember feeling quite lonely during that time because it was a different place. I felt quite isolated. It was completely different laws and rules. I did feel a little bit uncomfortable a lot of the time. And a lot of the time I do remember feeling lonely. Now, I didn't sit there and be like, right, this is it. I'm lonely for the rest of my life. This was just a short contract that I took working abroad. It wasn't the be all and end all. I've heard from loads of people who have really large families and still feel lonely. They still feel like no one really understands them, or they don't really connect with their family, or they don't really connect with their friends anymore. People come in and out of your life at so many different stages of your life. You'll go through life where you have loads of good friends and loads of great connections and loads of good work colleagues, or you might be working in a really good place at that time or a really good industry at that time. It doesn't mean anything really if you think about it. It doesn't mean that's the rest of your life. You can control which direction your life goes in. So if you are watching this and you're worried about loneliness please understand it could be a fleeting feeling. It could be just something you're going through at this moment in time. It doesn't necessarily mean it is the end of the world. But please take of this what resonates with you, because I do know that everybody understands loneliness and they see it in their own light. So some people think loneliness is having no friends or family, whereas to somebody else, that sounds like bliss. Some people love their own company. Some people love being left alone. Some people love living in the middle of nowhere in a shack or a forest or God knows where. To them, that's the highlight of their life. So please take of it what resonates, because the bottom line is you will see loneliness differently. I do know many, many people, and I have met many people who have loads of kids and still feel loneliness. They still feel lonely. They still feel like they have no one to speak to. They still feel like they have no one who can resonate with them. And that's even more sad, because that person probably got sold this idea that if you have kids, you're never going to be lonely because you're going to have a bestie. Why do people say this? Like, why do people have children so that they can say, oh, it's my best friend? Like, again, that's a lot of pressure on another human, and your kids shouldn't really be your best friend. They're your kid. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, thank you so, so much for joining me on this journey. As always, guys, I truly appreciate each and every one of you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you give this video a massive thumbs up, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.